that we've built stories about or assigned meaning to in our minds are not doing anything wrong. And actually we end up ruining the relationship by basically believing our own stories about those people. And so this idea of unraveling is interesting, this idea of sort of like... Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Dr. Nick Analyses. I'm an academic psychologist and I tend to analyse and react to music songs from a psychological perspective. This journey for me started about 18 months ago when I came across a song called High Ren. High Ren by Ren, it blew my socks off. It is the single best music experience I've ever had in my life. And it had so many useful messages about mental health in it that I used it to teach my students at university about the therapeutic model that I specialize in, a model called ACT. And so I made this video and I put it on YouTube because it was a big file and I needed my students to be able to access it. And before long, it had 20,000 views. And that was the thing that sort of prompted me to have a YouTube channel. Now at the time, lots of people left comments on the video, but one comment was from someone called Martin Gill. Martin Gill was Ren's dad, or is Ren's dad. And so you can imagine my excitement at having reached someone so close to Ren with my analysis. And Martin actually ended up emailing me to say what a good job I did with the analysis and how interesting the psychological model is that I research. It was throughout that time that I found out that Martin Gill is a psychotherapist. What's really interesting is that I think like Ren's mum is sort of like into musical theatre and Ren's stepdad is a storyteller. So like you think of like what Ren is, you know, he's a storyteller. The musical theatre side of things is really sort of like on point, and the mental health messages are really profound, and yet he's got those three people in his life. And don't get me wrong, I've no idea about the nature of their relationships, but still, isn't it mad that his dad's a psychotherapist, his stepdad's a storyteller, and his mum is a musical theatre director or something like this? Anyhow, Martin and I have sort of like kept in touch every now and then, and Martin let me know that he himself has been doing some creative work, and recently he uploaded this song called Unraveling. And so I thought, you know what, I've done lots of reactions to Ren, why not do a reaction to Ren's dad, Martin Gill? And so hope you like what I go for.
Join me for the moonrise 100 miles apart.
How interesting. So this is obviously Martin Gill. It looks as though there's not going to be a music video as such. It looks as though Martin Gill is playing the guitar, which is interesting, isn't it? Because Ren plays the guitar so well. And he's got a lovely voice, a lovely like soul to the voice. I'll be interested to see what the lyrics, what the song is about.
Pulled by the tides of love, washed on the shoreline of our hearts. Mine's now like a jigsaw with half the pieces missing. Not knowing who we are now, not knowing who we're kissing. Unraveling to ourselves 100,000 a universe of space between the sheets of love and feelings. Gifted our brighter selves, but we hid our deeper meanings. I placed it in the dark of night where the moon of love was shining.
All right, so I think I've had like a couple of verses in the chorus at this point. And the language is really poetic. And because the language is really poetic, like my experience with poetic language is that it can be interpreted in like lots of different ways. So right now, I'm almost like having a bit of a panic here. So this is just me being truthful with you. I'm almost having like this bit of panic where I'm just like, I'm not exactly sure what the song is about. If I was to guess, it is I'm hearing like the idea of a relationship, the idea of two people building a bond and being connected to each other. And then there's this word unraveling. And what I'm trying to do is trying to make sense of, he said something like unraveling when there are multiple meanings or something. And the thing that popped into my mind, could be totally wrong, was the idea that like when we're in the early stages of a relationship, actually when we're in the late stages of a relationship too, how we ascribe meaning to other people's behavior so easily that might be totally different to what's actually going on. You know how we build a picture in our minds of sort of like what's going on, and we believe our own stories about it. So like a typical example would be, you know, when people are in the early stages of love, imagine like one partner, it like takes their phone everywhere with them. The other partner could assign meaning to that behavior, could go, well, they're obviously cheated on me, you know, because they're taking their phone everywhere to hide it from me or whatever. And I think that like maybe there's a little bit of that going on in here. And of course, like what's going on there, if you know, if the song is about that psychologically, is that's so simple to understand what's going on there. What happens is we give people our love, and when we give people our love, they can break our hearts, and that becomes something we want to avoid at all costs. And so we look out for behaviors that signify we're about to get our hearts broken, so that we can prepare ourselves for the fall. But of course, most of the time, the people that we've built stories about or assigned meaning to in our minds are not doing anything wrong. And actually, we end up ruining the relationship by basically believing our own stories about those people. And so this idea of unraveling is interesting. This idea of sort of like becoming disheveled as we start to believe our own stories about other people. Like I said, I could be totally wrong because it's poetic. The language is poetic. And so I'll see if what else happens now for the rest of the song.
The moon shines bright, we can't always see the stars, and love's light shines so bright, we can't always see the scars.
Oh, that was nice, wasn't it? So he said when the sun is so bright that you can't see the stars, and he's talking about this idea of like looking, not having a clear vision of what's actually going on. But he said when love is almost as bright as the sun, and when love is as bright as the sun, we don't necessarily see people's scars, which is interesting, isn't it? And of course, other people don't see our scars, when the sun is so bright, when love is so bright. And so maybe what he's talking about here is the fact that we start off in like these sort of like happy little bunny rabbits, seeing each other in like this like totally optimistic, hopeful way, and it's only really as time happens that we start to unravel ourselves and unravel the other person in front of each other, to see the layers and to see the depth and to see the scars, to see the things that those people didn't want to show us right at the beginning of our relationship for fear of being discarded or thrown away.
And then we hide ourselves from our own selves, seeking the darkness for the love of someone else, unraveling to ourselves 100,000 meanings, a universe of space between the sheets of love and feelings. Gifted our brighter selves, but we hid our deeper meaning. Placed it in the dark at night where the moon of love was shining. Now we live 1,000 miles apart. The moon is high for you, but for me the sky's dark. But in the dark, the stars, they shine so bright by the shores of love, deep in the heart of night. Unraveling of space between the sheets of love and feelings. We gifted our brightest selves, but we hid our deeper meanings and placed them in the dark of night where the moon of love was shining.
Oh, how interesting. You know, you think of like what Ren represents, and you know, there's an edginess to Ren, isn't there? There's an edginess to his music, and of course there was nothing edgy about that. That was sort of just a beautifully delivered song about love, and I think it was about loss. I think the song was about loss, about the loss of a relationship, and perhaps some of the things that led to the loss of that relationship, including perhaps building hidden meanings, you know, building ideas about other people's behavior that weren't right. And of course, the reason we do that is to protect ourselves because we're scared of losing love. But I think he also talked about like part of the reason why the relationship would have broken down is because they didn't quite manage to open up to each other. They didn't quite manage to show each other those depths and those levels. And as a result of that, they almost, maybe they became stale. Maybe like that's the thing that happens in a relationship, is that if you can't be with someone where you can really show yourselves to them, maybe that relationship won't in the end have legs. Like, you know, it feels as though we hide our true selves so well in society for fear of judgment or for fear of like not getting ahead and whatnot. But at some point we need to be able to be real with people, and our partner is probably that person. So if you're with someone that you can't really show yourselves to, then the relationship might not have legs. Super interesting to listen to Ren's dad. Like, I really liked his voice, I really liked the song. I mean, the poetic nature of it makes life hard for a reactor, because you're just like, oh God, what could be going on here? And you think, well, 15 different things could be going on here. How do I analyze this in a way that is like gonna be useful to people, but also that is gonna pay tribute and honor the artist? Because Martin will watch this. And so like the last thing I want to do, and I feel the pressure of this, is to react to a video and I've totally missed the point. It could happen. I'm totally blind. I've never listened to this before. And so fingers crossed that that Martin likes what I went for. Fingers crossed that you all listened to the song and sort of like saw something really quite beautiful in it. It felt like a beautiful song of sort of like loss and reflection. And I hope that I've got that right in my analysis. And if not, I'm a human being, and it's fine. I can definitely throw myself some compassion and self-kindness. Thanks for watching this reaction video. Pop over to Martin's YouTube channel and have a look at some of his stuff, and come back to my channel to watch some more reaction videos. All right, take care. Bye bye. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, that is, because you can't see the words. Later on, listen to it, and you'll be thinking, I think it's going this way, and then you're like, oh no, is it going that way? Is it going this way? What way is it going? Do you know what I mean? It makes it so there's something lush about poetic language, but also something like, oh God, I've got to work hard here to figure out to put my finger on what is. If you could sum up the song in 2 sentences, what would those sentences be? That's what I'm trying to always get at with these things, you know.
It's that type of language. It's very expressive, and it's like you said, it's difficult to pinpoint what it is that it meant to the person at that time. Because poetic language, there's always a sense of not ambiguity, but emotional context for other people, and how other people interpret it will mean whatever to their own personal life. But something I picked up on when you said about the brightness of the sun and not seeing the stars, and it's like the saying where they say love is blind. And sometimes there's the opposite, where love isn't blind. It's just that the light that shines is so bright that you don't get to see the other side. But then if you don't allow yourself to put on the sunglasses, you don't see the stars.
Yeah.
And what happens is, by not doing that, you allow the distance between the two to get further.
Yeah, yeah.
So that once it does happen,
It's like
it's
a shock
too
almost. Yeah.
it's too far away
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
too big
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
cope with.
Yeah.
And that's why some relationships don't
Yeah.
work out simply because they don't get
Yeah.
past the honeymoon
Yeah,
stage
it's like their view of
quick
the
enough.
person is all of the lush stuff, and they like look away from the stuff that isn't so lush, and then when that other stuff gets a bit bigger, they're just like, oh, actually, I didn't sign up for that.
And the other person's
Yeah.
like, I don't
Hang
understand
on,
it.
hold on. Yeah, exactly.
I've not
Yeah.
changed. This is me.
Yeah.
Your interpretation of me is not my fault.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's really difficult to be with a
Yeah.
person that only wants to see your good sides, because you're saying you're only in love with 50% of me or 10% of me, and there's much more
Yeah.
to me than that, and that's why people don't always last.
Good.